Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show. I'm your host Manuj Aggarwal, and today we'll be talking with Greg Muzzillo. So, a veteran franchisor of printing and promotional product services, Greg brings more than 4 decades of experience to his role as the founder of Proforma, one of the nation's largest providers of business graphics, marketing materials, and printing services. Greg founded Proforma in 1978, and that was 3 years after I was born. A few months after graduating from college, from modest beginnings, the firm quickly expanded into one of the industry's most promising companies, earning a spot on Inc. magazine's fastest growing companies list for 3 consecutive years. To accommodate the firm's rapid expansion in 1986, Greg developed a franchise model that shaped the direction of the company over the next 35 years by creating a network of independent distributors of more than 650 franchises. He helped transform Proforma into a company generating, listen to this, more than 500 million per year while serving 50,000 clients across the country. Welcome, Greg. I'm so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me, Manuj. Thank you.
All right. So you've had tremendous amount of success, and some will say not in a very easy industry to be successful in. So can you sort of walk us through the memory lane and tell us how you got started? What are your secrets of such a tremendous success in this competitive industry?
Well, sure. My story is probably a lot like yours, where I was in college and studying accounting, and I thought I wanted to work for what was then one of the big eight CPA firms. But I had an internship after my junior year in a corrugated plant, and it was an outline plant. And anyhow, I had an experience there where at the end, I was allowed to just visit with each of the functional departments for a day. And I was able to meet with these two guys in customer service who I thought were the most fun and happy people in the plant. And yet, as I sat there with them, it was obvious they were miserable. They hated their jobs. They hated their lives. They hated corrugated, I think. And so I asked them, like any young 20-something, 21-year-old, whatever I was there, you're not happy here. Why don't you guys leave? And I'll never forget the one person I was sitting across the desk. He said to me, "You don't get it, do you, Greg?" And he pointed to his credenza. He said, "We have children." He pointed to the picture of his family. "We have children. We're married. We have children. We have homes. We have car payments, dental payments. We're not going anywhere." And I thought to myself, I think that's what somebody says when they're going to prison, And I made up my mind that day, that moment, that I would never become stuck with all of those payments and all those life situations and unable to start my own business. So I decided that day, that moment, I didn't know what it would be, but I decided I'm going to own my own business.
Awesome. And then how did you zero in on this promotional products category? Like, did you try other businesses or this was your first business?
Yeah, a buddy of mine. So a buddy of mine that I had graduated from college with, we would go out and we were roommates after we graduated from college. And I was with an accounting firm, although I knew it wasn't my destiny. And he was working for a small distributor. And so we would spend Friday nights looking for dates for Saturday night. And inevitably, he would complain about his boss and I'd complain about accounting. And the more he described his business, because he was working for a distributorship. And in a distributorship, you don't have to have any manufacturing equipment or inventory or expensive employees. And the more he was describing what he did, the more I thought, good gravy. I know accounting, you know sales, let's do this. And so within a few months, we each put in $100 and we decided that we would start this distributorship. So about 6 months after we had graduated from college, we just decided to just do this. And like I said, we put in $100 each and started knocking on doors.
Awesome. And what were the early years or months like? Did you have challenges or did it take off right away?
Oh, no, they were terrible. First of all, I thought I was going to be the accountant, right? And he was going to be the sales guy because I knew accounting. I didn't even take a sales course. I didn't even take a marketing course. But wait a minute. I thought, well, we started. But there were no sales, so there was nothing to account for. So I figured I got to go sell, and I had no clue. So he took me one day. We went out on the street. We were doing a lot of what we call here field calls, where that you go business to business, knocking on doors, asking to talk to the decision maker. And so I went with him for one day, and that was my whole sales training. And away I went, trying to figure out how to do sales, trying to figure out an industry, and also trying to figure out cash flow. Yeah, I mean, good gravy. That's really all we had. Neither he nor I came from families with money. So fortunately, we were distributors, and we sort of were able to use the manufacturers a little bit as venture capital, if you will. Not that they agreed to it, but by being able to pay them just a little more slowly while we waited for our customers to pay us, we were able to wrestle through the whole cash flow issues.
Awesome. And so seems like every other entrepreneur, there was a lot of new learning as you were trying to build the business. So did you make any mistakes as well that you can remember that you may want to share with the audience?
Oh my goodness. I think we made more mistakes, probably like you, Manuj, right? I mean, I tell people I have the most expensive MBA, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we at least I tend to learn more from my mistakes. Probably the biggest mistake I made was back in the early .com days. I thought our business was going to get disintermediated, if you remember that word, because we are distributors at the end of the day. And so I started chasing that solution and those riches, to be candid with you, right? And I found myself wasting several millions of dollars chasing that. That was the bad news. That was probably the biggest mistake financially. But fortunately, our industry isn't one that lends itself to disintermediation. So we're still here.
Awesome. That's great. And so, a lot of people are trying to figure out what they want to do. And particularly, this is a very tough market right now. So do you think that in your experience, this is the right time to start a new business, or is it a time to wait and watch and see how things go?
Any time is the right time, because when someone's ready, so is the market. The most important thing for somebody that's not happy doing what they're doing, I just wrote a blog about moving up during downtime, right? Everybody's got maybe some downtime right now, unless you're in the medical field. But how can you move up your career, move up your business, move up your future? And I'm sure these times present as many opportunities as they do challenges. In our industry, after there was the challenge with COVID, there was a press release from a publicly held company in our business that their sales were off 70%. And I think that might be the most significantly terrible thing that happened in our industry, because people started believing that business is off 70%. And I'm reading articles about on Facebook and social media about what puzzle should I put together now, or what should I stream on Netflix? And people just sort of waiting, like thinking it's impossible. And we started having webinars for our franchise owners right away, fixing their thinking, because even if business is off 70%, which I don't believe is true, but even if it's off 70%, that's stinking thinking. The right thinking is businesses are still spending 30% on what we sell. And that's a humongous number. It's still $100 billion or more. So there's clearly a market, even if business is off 70%. The key is just go get it. And when someone finds the inspiration, like I had no clue I'd get into this business, but I was ready. I was motivated. I had no clue what I would do. I didn't even have, I'm being honest with you, very much respect for my partner. I mean, I really liked the guy that I started the business with, but I didn't see him as intellectually equal to me. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I thought, the more I listened to this guy, I thought, hey, who's the smarter one? This guy's out here selling all this stuff as a distributor, and my antennas were up. And so because my antennas were up, just passionately seeking an opportunity, I saw an opportunity in those Friday conversations at the bar that many people would have just seen as Friday conversations at a bar. And so the key is, if people have their antennas up and they hear something, go for it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think you are absolutely right in that a lot of times we miss listening to people and miss those opportunities. particularly in a time of crisis when business is all about solving other people's problems. So in a time of crisis, people have more problems rather than having less problems, isn't it?
I agree. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. That's great. And so let's talk about your particular industry, because I really want to get into the psychology of this promotional product. So why do people need it? What is the effect of gifting these things, or basically just obliging people with some nice things that they may like, or printing out brochures, or what is the effect on business for doing all these activities?
Well, sure. So the products that we sell throughout North America are commercial printing, promotional products, and packaging, custom printed packaging. We're not shoving toothpaste into tubes, but
Yeah,
more business type packaging.
of course, yeah.
And of course, I think most people understand what printing is for, whether it's brochures or direct mail or catalogs or business cards, letterheads, envelopes, tags, labels. I think printing is a little easier to understand, but what's this promotional product stuff? And it's composed of decorated, imprinted, logoed, if you will, wearables, shirts, hats, aprons, all kinds of stuff like that, and hard goods, meaning pens and pencils and desktop accessories and electronic accessories, everything that there's 600,000 items or more that people put a brand on. And it's a way of promotion. The lasting effect and impact of a promotional product, because it's actually been measured, is way more and way stronger than advertising on television or on the internet, because we've all seen tote bags that people got maybe at a meeting or an event or a convention, and they still carry it around, or another giveaway item, a pen or a desktop accessory or a USB hub, or we've all seen people use branded items and they become a walking commercial for other businesses. And so really promotional products are truly one of the most effective ways of advertising and should be a part of every business's marketing mix.
Yeah, that's for sure. No, I agree. Like, as you mentioned, I go to this insurance company to get my car insurance every year, and then they all they do is they give you a pen along with a $2,000 insurance policy. But I use that pen because it's a different quality of ink that they use, and it's just a marvelous thing. And so whenever I use that pen, I remember, I got this from the insurance company. Let me check my insurance and is it due or not. So you're absolutely right. And I know you're big on networking, and as you mentioned, you're producing content, blogs, and webinars and stuff like that. So tell me a little bit about what you think about publishing content and networking with other people. How important is that in business?
Well, I think in many businesses, one should want to present themselves as an expert. And I'm no more expert and you're no more expert than a whole lot of other people, but we're out here doing a video and other people are listening to it, and it makes us sound like we're experts, right? And I do think that if you have valuable content to share, it helps drive awareness. And in business, in sales, a good friend of mine once told me there's only three things you need to know about marketing: awareness, trial, and commitment. That's it. It's the guy that started Subway, Fred DeLuca, who passed recently. And he said, Greg, that's all you need to know. And that's how he built Subway, this chain of 20,000 restaurants. And so if sharing content and doing videos and sharing information in other ways on social media helps drive awareness, that's the first step of any good marketing plan.
That's great. And so going back to your early days and comparing your success right now, did you have a plan in place? Did you know that you're going to get to this level of success? How was that? How did that all transpire? Was it a fluke, or tell us a little bit about that journey as well? I'm really curious to know.
So I always knew, and I can't explain why, I always knew I'd be very successful. I had this confidence inside of me that I could do amazing things, and that I would do amazing things, but I had no clue what it would be. But but I had the drive, I had the desire, I had the ability. And so I had no clue we would start franchising. When I first started the business, I had no clue what the business would be. But I think that inner sense that one has, and many people listening probably have it, and they need to listen to it, that they have the ability to be successful and to start first and foremost by believing in themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was going to bring up. Like, how do you suppress those negative talks, that everybody has in their mind, that who do you think you are, you're not good enough, or even if you start, it's not going to go anywhere. And people sort of listen to those voices rather than the voices that are in their head, which says, I think you got it, you can do it. So did you have that experience? Did you have to suppress those negative voices, or anything like that?
Well, there's two types of negative voices. There's others and yourself, right? So when I told my mom I was going to leave this prestigious job in one of the big 8 CPA firms, at the time there were 8, now there's only 4. Yeah. She asked me if I was an idiot. She said, "Are you stupid? Like you're going to do what?" And so, first of all and foremost, I think we have to also avoid the voices of others. When we have this innate, not that we shouldn't listen to others, but I think there are a lot of people who are intimidated when other people might be able to be more successful than them. I'm not saying my mother falls into that category, but I know there are probably a lot of people who don't want to see their next door neighbor pull up in a Mercedes Benz or be able to go buy a bigger house than what they have, right? So some people may not even knowing why they feel threatened by somebody else doing something that could drive amazing success, maybe put some negativity into their mind. So I don't know. I think you got to be very careful when you listen to other people, because their motivation and their ego might be driving something that's not good for you. And then you got to, a little bit of negativity is a good thing. Like, like, I don't know if I'm going to make it or not. That's good, because fear is the best motivator. That's what gets us up, and that's what gets us going, is fear of failure. So a little fear of failure is good. Listen to it. Be afraid of it. Get going, right? Take that negative emotion and turn it into positive energy to prove yourself wrong, to prove that you're going to make it. Because it can be the best motivation.
That's great. And now, what about the fear of unknown? Because you started a business which you said you didn't you did not have a sales background or business background, and then you went on to create a new business model for the entire industry, and you've broken so many new grounds. So, like, how do you deal with the unknown and the fear of failure?
Opportunities come knocking to talk about the fear of the unknown. And again, if your antennas are up, so back in 1985, so we started in 1978, before you were born, I guess. And in 1985, we had been 3 years, Inc. magazine, Inc. 500, fast growing company. And that's when there was only 500 of them. And we decided to expand to Columbus. We were in Cleveland, Ohio. Columbus is about 2 hours away. And we decided that we were going to expand there. And we interviewed for a salesperson, and we went down there 3 times, and we finally narrowed it down to the exact person we wanted to hire. And we went to Columbus to hire the particular person and bring him on board. And when we got there, he said to us, I've been thinking long and hard about this, and I really like you guys, and I really like your story, starting with a $200 phone answering machine and building this multi-million-dollar business. And he said, the more I thought about it, the more I realized I don't want to come work for you guys. I want to do this on my own, just like you did.
Oh, wow.
Now, many people might turn that into just a negative, like, ooh, and I did too, like, ooh, that hurt. Yeah. But then I started thinking, wait a minute, I'm not the only person in the world that wants to own their own business. Maybe there are many people like him that want to own their own business. So I started thinking, how could we have used our infrastructure? How could we have used some of what we had already developed to, rather than hire him, to empower him to be successful in owning his own business? And so I started thinking about that. What would that look like? And at about the same time, Inc. magazine called us up because we had been on their list for 3 years in a row, and they had heard a story about a very unusual collection technique. I had a college fraternity brother's name was Elio De Paulo. And well, when people didn't pay their bill and we were undercapitalized, I thought, oh my God, what are you going to do, right? So I would call people up. I say, hello, my name is Elio De Paulo. My friend Gregory Muzzillo, he telling me you no pay your bill. And it worked. People paid their bill. But anyhow, Inc. magazine heard about that, and then they wrote an article about this relatively unusual and probably illegal collection technique. And so then people started calling us, asking us if we'd be interested in franchising the business, right? So these two things were kind of colliding at the same time. And I thought, there's the answer, franchising the business. I'd like to say I'm a genius and I thought of it all myself, but really, if you just keep your antennas up, if you marinate things that went wrong, maybe you'll find an opportunity. Like I found an opportunity in what went wrong, what I didn't get my way. And actually, it turned into the most brilliant decision. His choosing not to join us as an employee helped drive the most brilliant decision of Proforma, which was to start franchising.
That's amazing story. Yeah, I mean, I always look at life and wonder when we are going through some tough time or something negative happens, we generally are very negative about it. But sooner or later, we realize that is something that was that leads to some growth or something amazing down the road, right?
Yes, absolutely, I agree.
Awesome. And so let's now go to the next step here, where let's say people have a mindset and they have the motivation, they have the opportunities, but they give up. Hard work is something very hard. A lot of people don't want to do that. So how did you find that motivation to keep going and working hard? Because I can imagine, it must have been really tough, even with all the things going on for you, to actually take it off the ground and bring this new model to the market. So how did you find that motivation?
Well, I became like those guys at that corrugated company. I got married, I had kids, I had house payments, I had dental payments, right? I had school payments. And again, fear is the best motivator. And so, and also I'd have to say there was a moment in time where I remember waking up. I had two very large customers at the time. And I remember like staring at the ceiling uncomfortably because one of them was up for renewal. And I kept thinking, if I lose either one of these customers, I'm going to have to move out of this house, take my kids out of the school they're going to, right? And this is not a good thing. And that's when I started thinking, I have got to make a company so big that I could keep these two customers, but even if I lost one of them, we would survive and thrive despite it. And so that lit a new level of energy in me to not just rest on my laurels. A lot of people get to the point, I see it in my own business. They get a couple customers, they're making good money, they're making their house payment, they're making the car payment, and they lose the fear, if you will. They become comfortable, and comfortable can be your worst enemy. And my thinking about, if I lost either one of these customers, I would be in a lot of trouble, kept me very motivated. And I think there's a lot, and we teach this to our franchise owners. If you got a bad phone call today from one of your customers, would it cost you your business? Could it cost you your business? I think there's a lot of people that need to ask themselves that. Am I so reliant on one or two customers that if I lost one or two of them, I might be out of business? Because if the answer is yes, then everybody needs to find, like I did, another level of motivation to grow beyond that, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah, of course. That's very well said. So the only difference is that you take that fear as motivation, but whereas a lot of people they get buried under fear and inaction sets in, right? So I think that's an excellent point. And you've been in the business for longer than I've been alive, but so you must have gone through so many of these sort of downturns in economy, like 1987 crash and 2000 crash and 2008 crash, and I'm sure there were many other downturns. So how do you cope with this? First of all, how do you prepare for this? Because we all know downturns are cycles of business; they're going to come. but a lot of people forget that, as you were pointing out earlier, people get
Yeah.
comfortable. So how do you prepare for it, for these downturns, and what was your experience going through your maybe that's the second question I'll ask later.
Well, I don't think anybody could say that they were adequately prepared for this COVID thing that's happening to us. Because, recently I talked with a great supplier in our industry, one of the largest suppliers by far, very successful second generation business. And he even said, they stress test their business. They do all the financial modeling. And if we go to a downturn like 87 or whatever, that kind of stuff. And he said, none of our stress tests even came close to what this COVID thing has brought. So I think, first and foremost, nobody could be always prepared. I mean, you can try your best to be prepared. But I think that the most important thing is to have the right mindset, because no matter what hits the fan, we got to wake up, and we either, like right now, I just got done doing this recording for a blog that it's how do you move up during downtime? How can you use this downtime if you're having downtime to move up? And so it's just a mindset. Nothing analysis paralysis. There should be never any paralysis. Get up and get going. And I think some people, we started having videos right away. As soon as the middle of March, as soon as this was apparent, this was going to be a problem, we started having videos for our people, because I do think on your own and all alone for many people is a disaster. I compare it to having a beach fire. I say, if you have 3 or 4 or 10 logs in the beach fire, it's going to burn bright. But when one of those logs rolls out of the fire, it sizzles out and it fizzles out. And I do think there's a lot of people who, especially in the early days of entrepreneurship, kind of are on their own and all alone. And I think it's very important to find a network of people, to find a bunch of logs to hang out with, to help get you on fire and keep you on fire. And that's why we started these webinars, because many of our folks were being forced not to be able to go into their offices, but to work from home. And we wanted to create an environment where they could learn together, share together, get motivated together. And we've done 60, I think over 60 now of those webinars. So there's a way to get motivated. And it's probably recognizing, what is it that demotivates you? Is it being on your own and all alone? Or is it the people you're hanging out with that are negative? Yeah. Find the right people or the right resources that can get you on fire and keep you on fire.
Amazing. Yeah, that's true. And now you mentioned something which I want to talk about is, like, the industry is going to change. A lot of things are going virtual, and a lot of people are resisting that change. Can you hear my voice?
I do. I can hear you. Okay. There was a little feedback, but
yeah,
I hear you.
I don't know why that. Hopefully that's okay for the listeners. So how do you think the industry is going to change? How do you think people need to adapt their businesses and go virtual and incorporate these types of, virtual meetings instead of doing everything physically?
I just turned down my volume in case I was part of the problem. Could you ask the question again? I want to just make sure I understood.
So how is the virtual component of the business is going to affect industry or business as a whole?
Well, sure it will. How we sell is going to affect businesses, right? So we came out with a tool called Pro Video right away in the middle of March. It was a way for people to record a video, put it into an email, and send that email, and it's personalized. Like I could say, "Hey, Manuj, I was just thinking of you. Want to make sure you're okay." That was for back in the day where people really weren't seeing each other. We did that for 2 months, and I found the usage of that is really tailing off, because everybody's probably almost Zoom meetinged out, right? Like, okay, now we just the whole Zoom meeting thing and the whole Zoom meeting selling. We're teaching our people, how do you get on Zoom? Because the sales process hasn't changed. You identify a qualified prospect, right? You make them aware you exist. You schedule a first appointment. You have a great first appointment, and you follow up, follow up, follow up. This is how we get business in the business to business world. And so that hasn't changed. It's but just how do you use technology in this virtual world to drive awareness, and then to have a great first appointment. And then we're also providing some video tools for our folks to be able to use. Some of them aren't, some of our people, I mean, they're really good people, but they're not necessarily great salespeople. And so we even have some videos. So they just push, oh, hi, and push play and tell some of the stories that we have to tell. So we make selling easier for people who aren't necessarily as comfortable in this new virtual world we find ourselves in.
All right, that's great. Well, I think the sound is experiencing some problem. And anyway, we are at the end of the interview. So thank you so much, Greg, for joining us today and sharing your amazing experience and being very honest. You know, a lot of people it learning uh, by also not just focusing on the positives, but also learning about the negatives and how to overcome those challenges. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, how can people reach out to you? How can they connect with you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, just proforma.com, www.proforma, Proforma.com. And we also have another site called onlyproforma.com. And if anybody has any questions, or if there's any way I could be of service to struggling or aspiring entrepreneurs, I would be happy to be of service, just like other people were of service to me.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. We'll put the links in the show notes so that people can reach out to you easily. And thank you once again for being with us today.
All right, Manuj, thank you very much.